Faster Fluency Conversation Club podcast. Painful work situations you used to have and that you solved. Welcome to the Faster Fluency Conversation Club podcast by Business English with Christina. The Faster Fluency Conversation Club takes place on Zoom and is a way for you to improve your fluency and confidence in English by talking about real-world topics. We meet for 1 hour every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and we would love you to join us. If you want to practice your English, become more confident, and meet people just like you from all around the world and have guidance from my expert teachers and me, just click the link in the show notes. Our podcast listeners receive a 50% discount on the first month of membership with the discount code FFCC50. Come and join us today. Hey everybody, Christina here with your Faster Fluency Conversation Club podcast. I hope you're all doing very well in this lovely month of May. I'm here today with Christina with a K. Christina, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing good. Doing a lot better than I have been in the past in the situations that we're going to talk about today. Painful work situations. Yeah, we're going to talk about, I guess, situations that we've both experienced in our work that were not so easy, and then how we overcame those fears or uncomfortable feelings in those situations. Yeah.
Sounds good.
All right. So I guess the first question is just like, in your career, what is something that you used to feel really uncomfortable about doing it, and now it's kind of okay for you?
Yeah, well, I guess when I was learning Spanish years ago, living in Nicaragua was particularly hard because I couldn't avoid speaking Spanish. We
Yeah.
had to speak Spanish everywhere. So I had to just get better with it.
Yeah, it's like
So
you sink or swim, you know.
right. There's no choice.
Yeah.
And so, I learned all kinds of different things about the language, but also about the culture. And all of those situations made me feel very uncomfortable, very nervous when I would speak Spanish. I was always afraid of getting a word wrong.
Mm.
I remember one time I asked a guy I was trying to say, how many pesos
Yeah,
or
right. Like the
monies,
money, yeah.
how many pesos do I owe you? And
Yeah.
I asked him, how many besos do I owe you? Which is how many kisses.
Kisses, right. Right. He
So
was like,
so crazy stuff like that happened to me when I was learning a different language and
yeah.
just uncomfortable. But you just have to laugh and have a
Yeah.
sense of humor and get past it. But now I'm super comfortable, super fluent
Oh,
in
good.
Spanish.
Yeah. I guess it's like become okay with feeling a little stupid sometimes and
Yeah.
just kind of, I feel like in most situations, I guess it depends on context and hierarchy and relationships and things like that. But I think in a lot of situations, people understand that, it's not your language. Hey, you make mistakes, not the end of the world. But yeah, I can definitely think there's like some situations where you don't want to have to deal with like those feelings. And
Yeah. And
it's
you
just,
dealt with the same thing when you were learning French, right?
Yeah, it's like, well, when I was learning French, and I would say, especially like when I was starting to work on my own, and so like trying to find clients and things like that, I like, I had this fear of telephoning in French. Like, even if it was just like to call a restaurant and reserve, like book a
Mhm.
table, I was like, I would hate it. And so, of course, like when you're starting your company, you have to call people to like talk about contracts or quotes or get some information about what to put in a document or something like that. And like I was so bad at it. Like I told my husband, I was like, can you pretend to be like my sales rep or assistant or something and call this company and get this information from there? And I was like, oh my, like I'm asking my husband to do my work for me. Oh my goodness. And I was just like, I have got to fix this. And eventually I did. Like now I have no problems calling up people in French and talking about business stuff with them. Like I'm totally comfortable in terms of language in that. But the thing, I guess the work situation, English or French, that I'm still not comfortable with at all is negotiating things. Like
Mhm.
I hate negotiating.
And it's funny, each culture has kind of a different negotiating style,
Yeah,
how they view negotiating.
exactly.
Like in the US, you might negotiate about your car price.
Yeah,
You know, when somebody's selling a used car, maybe you'll
yeah,
negotiate the price. But in Nicaragua, people negotiate all the time about
yeah,
everything, even like vegetables in the market.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I used to be terrified of like I would start speaking Spanish and I know what I was trying to say.
right.
But I would be terrified when the other person would speak back and they would speak really fast.
Mm,
I'm like, it made me so nervous and frustrated and made me feel lost.
yeah,
The most irritating thing about being in that situation
yeah,
is when you first start those first few couple years that you're learning,
mm,
you really sound like a child to them.
yeah,
So they don't realize you're an intelligent adult because you're
exactly.
speaking like a child, and that's very frustrating.
Yeah, yeah, because it's like for better or for worse, people I think may, and I don't know if it's like subconsciously, but yeah, like depending on your level of language, they maybe just kind of as a reflex associate your language level with your intelligence level, and you're like, it's not the same thing. And yeah, it's you're just like, stop speaking to me like a child. I can
Right.
understand the concept, you know.
I can express myself perfectly fine in my language. I just can't
Ex-
express it in
in,
Spanish.
in this other language, exactly. And it's
Right.
just, oh, it's frustrating. No, it's
Yeah.
awful.
But we get through it and we keep our eye on that goal of
Mm.
fluency, right? And then, but once you reach that point, you're like, yes, this is great. I'm comfortable in these situations.
Yeah,
So,
it's like what I'm doing right now is like I'm replacing my door on my apartment because it's just like it's a very old door and I feel like it just needs to be replaced. And so I'm looking for quotes for this door. And so I get the quote and the guy calls me back and he's like, "Oh, did you get the quote that they sent?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And it looks like I'm like, I looked on the internet, I got a couple of other quotes. It's a decent price. But I'm like, you know what? I have got to force myself to feel comfortable with negotiating. And so I'm trying to like negotiate with it. I'm like, I want to replace the door on my apartment, but also on my basement. What about if I say that I will order two doors from you? Can you maybe like give me a bit of a discount because you got basically two orders from one client? Trying to get, and I'm just, and I like, I was doing that. I felt totally uncomfortable and cheapskate. And I'm like, feel like I'm begging for him to give me a discount. And I hate that feeling. But I'm like, this is a skill that I need to have. So I'm going to force myself to do it. And it's like, what's the worst he can say? It's like, sorry, I can't do that.
the
You
worst
know,
he can say is no. Yeah.
exactly. That's it. He's not going to be like, you awful person. How dare you?
Right.
And in that case, I'd be like, well, I'll go with your competitor. That's okay. So I don't know. I'm trying to force myself to be uncomfortable, but I don't know. I don't like that feeling, but I'm going to have to get used to it.
Yeah, I think it's good for us to all get out of our comfort zone from time to time.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's it. Yeah. And I think that would be some good words of wisdom to end with today. Go out of your comfort zone,
Yeah, get out of your comfort zone.
and that painful situation will one day not be painful.
Right.
Yes. All right. Well, thanks a lot, Christina, and talk to you soon.
Thank you. See you later.
Thank you for listening again this week. As a bonus for our listeners, we now offer the transcript of this episode for free so you can read after listening. Our goal is to help you improve all aspects of your English. And when you become a member of the Faster Fluency Conversation Club, each week you also get exercises on grammar, vocabulary, pronunciation, and more directly connected to the topic of the conversation each week. In addition to the daily speaking practice in the club, you'll also make friends around the world with professionals just like you, so you have fun learning and remember what you learned better. And because you listen to this podcast, you get a 50% discount on your first month of membership. Just use the code FFCC50. And if you'd like to join the club, the link for more details is in the show notes for this podcast. We hope to see you in the club.